Hello dear students, today we are going to talk about the history and culture section regarding our PT 100 topics lectures. So what is going to be there in this? I am going to give you an overview. See, first I will talk about the number of questions asked in last few years, that is since the pattern changed 2011 up to 2023. Then I will talk about the key aspects of every section, that is ancient India, medieval India, modern India, history and culture, as well as miscellaneous topics. After that, I will be talking about, or side by side I will talk about the kind of questions being asked and what has been the difficulty level of those questions. Then I will also, in the end, talk about the topics which we are going to cover in our PT 100 topics lecture series. One more thing is there. I want to tell you in advance that after the lectures, we can call them revision lectures of every section. For example, I have covered ancient India. After the ancient India section is covered, we will have a test for you. So this is how you will be going through all the topics. You will be revising them thoroughly and you will be testing yourself also. So this is how you ensure that in prelims examination, your revision is good, your practice is good, and your chances therefore are high to attempt the questions, more and more questions correctly in the real exam. So first, I would like to talk about the questions that has been asked in last few years. That is almost 12-13 years. 2011, the pattern of the examination at the preliminary level changed. And since then, if we look at these years, consistently in double digits, the questions has been asked from history and culture section. On an average, we can say that 16 to 17 questions has been asked from the history and culture section between 2011 and 2023. So it is total last 13 years. And 6 types of questions has been detected. So what kind of questions has been asked? For example, the simple type of questions has been there, where there are 4 options given by UPSC and you have to identify which option is correct. Another type is that 2 statements are given and you have to identify which statement is correct and whether the statement 1 is rightly explained by statement 2 or not. Third type of questions has been those where more than 2 statements has been given and you have to identify which statements given in a particular question are correct. Then there also has been questions which are given in some kind of chronological order, but now they are a rare sight. Then we have questions where you have to match 2 lists or some kind of matching is to be done. A new type of element has been introduced by UPSC in last 1 or 2 years, where they ask you questions, they give you pairs and you have to identify not whether pairs are correctly matched or not. You have to identify among the given pairs how many pairs are correct, 1, 2 or 3, whatever, right? So this is how the pattern is. So, as I said, on an average, in last 13 years, 16 to 17 questions has been asked from history and culture section. It highlights the point that history and culture section is always important in preliminary exam and nobody can dare to or think of avoiding it. It will be at your own risk. But you can streamline your preparation by identifying the topics and areas from where questions are asked frequently and those topics from where questions has been asked rarely. This way you can make your, we can say, preparation foolproof. So for your understanding, I would like to go deeper into the analysis of previous questions and want to talk about how many questions on an average has been asked from subsections of history and culture. So if we see the last 13 years, on an average, 5 to 6 questions has been asked from art and culture section, and the topics related to art and culture are generally from ancient and medieval section of history. It means that you should be paying thorough attention or due attention to the cultural part of ancient and medieval Indian history when you are reading the basic texts, instead of preparing separately for art and culture. Yes, there are certain areas for which you have to prepare separately, because there are questions which are, there are topics, there are issues related to art and culture which are currently in news. For example, World Heritage Sites, historical places, those you have to prepare separately, right? Or in the process of, you can say, studying current affairs. In last few years, or in these years, we saw that purely questions which you can say are asked from ancient and medieval India, apart from culture section, are very less. On an average, 3 to 4 questions were asked from ancient India and 2 to 3 questions were asked from medieval India. So, because less questions were asked from ancient and medieval India, your approach should be as such. But there is a caveat, there is a warning that no section in any part of the GS, including history and culture, should be left unstudied. You must study everything, but you can be selective in your study or preparation when the exam is nearby. Modern India, in modern India, especially the Indian national movement, that is the time from, you can say, the formation of the Congress or the rise of Indian national consciousness up to India's partition and independence is the most important period from where questions has been asked. On an average, we see that 7 to 8 questions has been asked from modern Indian history section. So this was one part of the analysis. Now, on the basis of this analysis, we can say that history and culture section is very important. It should be paid proper attention by any serious candidate. A serious student must also go through the previous year's questions. Why? Because without understanding without going through the previous year's questions, you cannot understand exactly what is the expectation of UPSC or what is the tendency of UPSC. So the real understanding of pattern of the examination, whether it is at preliminary level or main examination level, comes from the thorough study of previous year's questions. You also get to understand what is the nature of the questions. Otherwise, the syllabus which has been given by UPSC gives you a basic outline or idea, not the in-depth understanding of the expectations of UPSC, right? One very important observation, as all of you would have already noticed this, is that there has been slight change in the style of questions asked in GS paper 1. What does it show? It shows that there is a need to change one's approach for the examination hall. Why? Because many of the candidates found it difficult to manage their time and they felt that the question paper was lengthy or some questions were lengthy. They were taking more time. Accordingly, one should be well prepared and gear up to the occasion. Now, when we say history is a very important section till date, we also must understand that it demands proper understanding of key facts, events, dates and personalities. You cannot study history by just mugging up everything. A better way is that you study something chronologically or theme-wise and understand the interlinkages, understand the elements of continuity and change, and let it become a part and parcel of your long-term memory. Till 2022, we felt that UPSC is not asking much questions from ancient and medieval section. But in 2023, what we have seen? The ancient and medieval section has regained importance and there were some questions of higher level difficulty as well. One more thing was observed in 2023 question paper, that many factual questions were asked from modern India. It means for any time to come, one should be prepared for all kind of elements of uncertainty that UPSC throws at the aspirants. Now, after this, I would like to talk about section-wise important topics from where UPSC has the tendency to ask questions. So, if we look at ancient India, there are 6 or 7 topics from where repeatedly UPSC has asked questions. One of the pet area is Indus Valley civilization. Some questions has been asked in such a manner where there is a comparative study of some kind between Indus Valley civilization and Vedic period. So Vedic period, both Rig Vedic and Later Vedic period must be studied. But Later Vedic period is much more important because most of the Vedic literature was compiled during that period. And that is the source of information about Vedic period. The Later Vedic period forms the larger part of the Vedic period in terms of what you can say different activities and amount of information we have regarding the activities of Aryans in political, economic or social fields. 16 Mahajanpadas, important ones you should know. You should know about why certain Mahajanpadas became more powerful, what kind of economy they were having, how was their administration, what are the important dynasties and rulers, right, besides their capitals and locations. In post-Vedic period, on one side, political level, 16 Mahajanpadas are coming into existence. On the other hand, many heterodox sects are emerging. Among them, Buddhism and Jainism became very popular. Why? You should know that, and different aspects of Buddhism and Jainism should be known. I'll talk about the key aspects in the next slide. So, Buddhism and Jainism as such can be studied in art and culture also because there is a topic religion and philosophy, right? Or they can be studied here also. Sangam Sangam literature is the source of information in South India, which this age overlaps with modern and post-modern period, and you should be studying the important aspects of Sangam literature to seek information about political, social and economic developments of those times. Mauryas and Guptas, both are important. Certain aspects like culture, administration or polity or religion are more important, from where recurringly UPSC has asked questions when it comes to the Mauryas and the Guptas. In post-Gupta period, UPSC does not ask questions recurringly, but occasionally it asks questions related to certain important dynasties. This year also there was a question of that time. So you should know about the major dynasties that came into existence in the post-Gupta period. And besides Pushchibhutins, there are Vakatakas, there are what you can say Mokharis and many such other dynasties. So let us have some deeper understanding of ancient India. Now I have already told you that there has been 6 or 7 areas or topics from where questions has been asked recurringly, so they become important topics. What a student should do as an aspirant for civil services and what areas he or she should pay major attention when it comes to ancient India. I would say that socio-cultural aspects of the Indus Valley civilization and Vedic age should be given more importance. For example, what was the religious practices in Vedic times or in what you can say Indus period. You should also know very well about the key Harappan sites, especially those locations and sites which are there in news and their important features. For example, Dhoolabhira is known for the water channels, dams, etc. There is Rakhigadi, which is an important site in Haryana. There should be some key features related to it. So you should be knowing about those. What has been found there, archaeological evidence, right? When it comes to Vedic period, a student who is serious should be familiar with important terms. Like you can say there are 3 types of yagyas performed by the Aryans. That is Rajasuya or Ashwamedh. Those things you should be knowing about. Then you should know about Vedic literature, different aspects of Vedic literature, whether it is Smriti or what you can say Shruti category. You will study this separately when you are studying culture section. There you will study language and literature. That is one way of reading it. Or you study all aspects of Vedic literature when you are studying Vedic period, right? and you should be very familiar with the religious practices of those times. When it comes to Buddhism and Jainism as an important topic related to ancient India, you should pay due attention to the teachings of Buddha and Jain and other important personalities or monks related to these sects. You should know about the key personalities related to them. You should know about the canonical literature or religious literature related to Buddhism and Jainism, for example, Tripitakas or Agamas. You should know about the councils which were organized to compile these texts, and in that process, many sects emerged in Buddhism and Jainism. 4 Buddhist councils are there, 2 or 3 Jainism-related councils are there. Different sects emerged in both these, religions. For example, Buddhism had 3 major sects later. They were Mahayana, Hinayana, and Vajrayana. Similarly, Jainism had Shvetambars and Digambars. So you should be knowing about them. Who were the people who patronized them, the rulers especially, or the classes, and what are the factors that led to their decline? When it comes to Mahajanpadas, I have already told you, you should know about what topics you should know about, what aspects you should know about. But at the same time, when you are studying Mahajanpadas, key dynasties, their capitals, etc., you should also know about the fact that there existed certain republics. And republics were the places where the voice of dissent against Brahminical orthodoxy emerged. Both Gautam Buddha and Mahavir Jain came from republican setup, not from the monarchies. When it comes to Mauryan and Gupta period, as I said earlier, socio-cultural and economic aspects should be studied well. When it comes to Sangam literature or Sangam age, first you should know the basics of the literature because that is the source of information about Sangam age, then the society of those times and administrative aspects. One pet area of UPSC is different scholars and literary works. That is, for example, Abhigyan Sakuntalam was written by Kalidas. Such things should be known by the candidate, the important scholars, if they have written some religious books, some books related to grammar, some books related to philosophy or prose, drama, poetry, anything. Those important scholars and their work should be known. Similarly, major dynasties of post-Gupta period, I am repeating it, that should also be known. So this was the analysis related to the ancient India. Now we go to the next section and the important topics related to it. But before that, I would like to give you some example of the kind of questions they are asking nowadays. Out of the 6 types of questions which I identified, one type of question is that where simply you are given 4 choices as this is the question. Which one of the following explains the practice of Vatakirutal as mentioned in Sangam poems? This was the question asked in 2023. 4 options are given. You have to identify the correct one. D is the right answer. The Vatakirutal is nothing but the ritual where a king who is defeated in a battle commits suicide by starving himself to death. When it is not a battle and a king like Chandragupta Maurya does so, when he converts to Jainism, it is called Salekhana, right? Now, I come to medieval India. When it comes to medieval India, the important areas from which UPSC has been repeatedly asking questions are the major dynasties of early medieval India, especially the tripartite struggle. You should be knowing a bit about Palas and their contributions, then Gurjar Pratyaharas and Rajputas especially. Then questions are asked from the different aspects of Delhi Sultanate, Vijayanagar, Mughals, Bhakti and Sufi movement. Bhakti and Sufi movement you might study under religion philosophy section in the art and culture area or section. So let us have an analysis of medieval India. See, I identified how many topics? 5 topics are there. Now, what you should study as a serious candidate? See, the areas which require major attention of an aspirant regarding medieval India are the political, social, cultural and economic dimensions of Delhi Sultanate, Mughal and Vijayanagar period. So you have to study the political aspects, the key rulers. For example, Delhi Sultanate had 5 dynasties right from 1526 right from 1206 up to 1526. But Among these 5 dynasties, there were almost 32 rulers. You are not supposed to know about all these rulers. You are supposed to know about the important personalities and rulers and their contributions. Mughals, you should know more about great Mughals and the founders, right from Babur up to Aurangzeb. And then Vijayanagar, you should know about the key dynasties that ruled, important rulers and their contributions, from where the questions are asked. You should know about Vijayanagar economy, especially trade and commerce. You should know about the contribution of Vijayanagar in culture. Same is the case with Mughals. For example, Mughals contributed a lot in the area of paintings or architecture. Delhi Sultanate has also its own share of contributions that should be known. There are many sources of history belonging to this period. There are many works of fiction also. You should know about them. When it comes to Bhakti and Sufi movement, you should know about the important saints related to these movements, their chronology. Sometimes chronological questions are asked. Who came first, who came later? Then the different silsilas or doctrines related to them. For example, Bhakti has Nirguna as well as Saguna aspects. Sufi tradition has many silsilas. Some of them became very popular in India. So, and their impact, that should be known to you. Then you should also know some key facts related to important kingdoms that emerged in North and South India. For example, when there is breakdown of Delhi Sultanate, then emerged many kingdoms. When there is breakdown of any other bigger empire, Vijayanagar Empire, there are successor states. Bahmani Kingdom, it is breaking down. It has 5 successor states. You should know about the key aspects about them, right? Then a question from medieval India for your understanding. See, sometimes UPSC has this tendency nowadays to ask this kind of questions where they give you statements, 3, 4 or 5 statements, and you have to identify which or how many statements are correct from them. So there are 3 statements given over here. Sher Shah Suri introduced silver coins called Dam. This is wrong. Why this is wrong? Because the silver coin which he introduced was called Rupiah. Dam was a copper coin. Sultan Iltutmish introduced silver coins Tanka and Gital. This is also wrong. Why? Because he introduced silver coin. He did not introduce silver coin he introduced copper coins also. Tanka or Taka was a silver coin, but Jital was a copper coin, right? It has lesser denomination. So this becomes wrong. It is partially correct, otherwise full wrong. Muhammad bin Tughlaq introduced token currency of copper coins. This is perfectly right. So only 3rd statement is correct. So how many statements given here are correct? Only 1. That becomes the answer. You know that Muhammad bin Tughlaq is remembered for being a very educated or learned man, but he had the problem of not executing his otherwise well thought out projects efficiently or in proper planned manner. That's why he failed in 5 of his projects, which were not bad as such, but due to his hasty nature, they were not implemented correctly, they failed. Now we go to the next section and talk about important topics of modern India. If we look at modern India, we can say there has been 8 key areas from where UPSC has asked questions again and again. What are those areas? Arrival of Europeans. UPSC has over the years asked many questions from this area. If not every year, then every alternate year there has been some kind of question from this section. So for prelims, you cannot ignore it. Different movements, including Indian national movement. So different movements means there were peasant movements, there were tribal movements or uprisings, there was then within Indian national movement, there was the Swadeshi movement, there was non-cooperation movement, there was another civil disobedience movement, then Quit India movement. So such movements which are there in modern Indian times, especially during the British rule, you should know about them, their key aspects, especially their significance or their impact, personalities involved, and important developments in their programs, if any, right? You should also study social religious reform movements, the major ones, very well, their founders, their contribution, etc. And then important British policies, for example, economic policy and their stages of British colonialism, how administration evolved, and when administration is evolving, different acts are coming. So constitutional development should also be very well known. The important governor generals, viceroys like Warren Hastings or Wellesley or Hastings or William Bentinck, they should be known, their time period, important developments which took place under their regime, that should be known to you, right? Then Indian National Congress, its important sessions, their presidents, and if important resolutions. For example, there was a resolution passed during the Karachi session in 1931, which was related to interest of labor, workers, as well as the farmers. Or there was what you can say, resolution related to Purna Swaraj passed during the Lahore session of 1929. Such things should be known. Then important committees that were appointed during the British period and the commissions, you should be knowing about them. For example, there were commissions and committees related to area of education or famines, you should be knowing about them, right? So these are the main areas or topics from where UPSC has asked questions time and again under modern India. Then let us analyze this more. So we can say in modern India, Indian national movement is the most important area from where questions has been asked. Within Indian national movement, the Gandhian phase, that is the arrival of Gandhi in India from South Africa in 1915, up to his role in India's freedom struggle till 1947-48, that should be studied, right? You should be very well aware of different movements, as I said earlier, as well as ideologies. There is an ideology called revolutionary ideology, leftist ideology, then rightist ideology, communal ideology. These ideologies, they emerged, and different movements like civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement, all those movements should be known. You should know about their purpose, significance, and personalities related to them. British socio-economic policies and land revenue systems you should be aware of. I talked about the policies. Land revenue systems, 3 systems are there. Zamindari or permanent settlement. Then there is Mahalwari and Royatwari systems. You should know about them, their founders, their areas in where they were implemented, and the impact they had, good or bad, and the issues or problems emerging from them. They should be known by you. Then you should also know about the evolution of political and administrative structure, as I said earlier, from where question has been asked, how constitutional development took place, how British administration, whether it is civil service, whether it is police service, whether it is judiciary, they evolved. You should know about them. Major sessions of the Congress, I am repeating it. Then reform movements and their impact, socialist reform movements like Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, or what you can say, Deoband movement related to different communities. You should also know about constitutional development means important acts like Government of India Act 1858 or Regulating Act 1773 or Government of India Act 1935 or the Councils Act 1909. These are the important acts about which you should know. You should know about the key provisions. For example, diarchy was an important feature of the Government of India Act 1919. And provincial autonomy was offered under the Government of India Act 1935. These things you should very clearly know. And they come handy in what you can say, attempting correctly the questions related to different acts in the preliminary exam. Governor generals and important developments during their tenure. So this is all about modern India. Then let me pick up one question from this related to modern India. So this is also one way of asking questions. UPSC asks you to see, consider these pairs and see how many of these pairs are correctly matched. So on one side is in the list is given the land revenue systems, permanent settlement or Zamindari, Royatwari and Mahalwari. On the other side, the list is given talking about implemented in which areas or regions. So if you see, permanent settlement was introduced in Bengal, Bihar, Odisha. So this pair becomes wrong. Central province, Gangetic Valley, here Mahalwari system was introduced. Later it was extended to Punjab, Rajasthan, such areas also. Royatwari settlement was employed in or used in Deccan region, Madras, Bombay, Coorg. Coorg is the southern district of southern Karnataka. And then, what you can say, Malwari system, the Siratwari system was also implemented in some districts of Assam. So none of these pairs are correctly matched. So how many of the pairs given above are correctly matched? Answer would be none. Okay. This question this type of questions have become a very the important type which UPSC is now asking questions like this. Now I come to the last section and important topics of history and culture. Art and culture is the section, and the key topics are art forms and architecture. When I say art forms, it includes performing as well as visual arts. So dance, drama, music, painting. UPSC has asked questions, if not frequently, but from one or the other area related to art forms occasionally. Then architecture. Architecture is a pet area in mains also, so you must study it well. The NCERT books, part 1 and part 2, an introduction to art, related to class 11th and 12th, should be thoroughly studied. Language and literature, they have asked questions. So language and literature means it could be Vedic literature, it could be different scholars and their contribution. There is a book given, there are writers' name given, and sometimes you have to see which pairs are matched. Sometimes you have to identify simply that who is the writer of these particular books or something, right? So that should be studied well. Religion and philosophy, I already talked about. You should also be familiar with scientific and technological developments, especially of ancient India. From there they ask questions. For example, there are people from different fields, medicine, metallurgy, astronomy, like Aryabhat. Then you have Varahamihir or Charak, Sushrut, Dhanvantari. You should know about them and their contributions, or Bodhayan, such people. And then there are miscellaneous topics which you study out of history and culture books. That is festivals and fairs, if they are in news or they are important, you should know about them. Any important film, calendars, this you study basically in ancient and medieval India itself. For example, there is Shaka era, or there is some other era, Vikram Samvat, so you study there. But questions are asked in culture section, you can say in here also. Historical places which are in news, World Heritage Sites, for example, UNESCO World Heritage Sites, such things you should know. Even GI tags, right? So they fall in the category of traditions and culture of the country. After this, I would analyze a bit more this particular section, Indian heritage and culture, within history and culture. So you will see that most of the questions are primarily related to the ancient and medieval Indian history, which are, I mean to say that the questions which have been asked related to culture, most of them have been asked between 2011 and 2023 from the ancient or medieval section. So you should know about when you are studying ancient history or medieval history, you should study the cultural part then and there properly. For example, Mauryan culture or culture during Gupta period or Vedic culture, you should be studying things then and there, right? The present trend, if we look at it, last few years, it indicates that many questions have been asked by UPSC from current developments in art and culture. And they relate indirectly to ancient and medieval history. For example, in 2023, September, UNESCO included in its list of World Heritage Sites the temples which belong to Besara style from South India. The temples, Hoshala temples, like there is one temple in Halebidu or any other such place, they were included. So you should know about this. You should keep an eye on such developments. They should be considered the current aspect or news, and they are related to history of ancient or medieval India also, right? Buddhism, Jainism and other religious philosophies are very important themes. UPSC more or less ask repeatedly questions from this area. So this should not be ignored. If they have not asked questions about Buddhism and Jainism, sometimes their comparison, and sometimes Ajivika sect, sometimes who are Kalmukhas or who are Siddhyars or Alvars, Nayanars, such things they have been asking, right? And whatever topics remains, like festivals, fairs, this should be categorized as miscellaneous topics in Indian heritage and culture section or subsection. One question I would like to pick up from this section. For example, here are given two statements and you have to identify the correct answer using the given options. So consider the following statements. Statement 1 is saying some of the most experimental hybrid styles of Besara architecture. Besara means mixed architecture. The elements of Nagar, Northern style and South, Dravid style were mixed up. And they, along with some more experimentation, were used to build temples and structures related to them in Karnataka region. So this statement is given and this statement is correct. Statement 2, the hybridization, that mixing up of and incorporation of several styles was the hallmark of Chalukyas, Hoysalas and Vijayanagar. These dynasties patronized distinct styles of temple architecture. They are mixed style, but still they are unique and different from each other. So this statement is also correct and this very truly explains statement 1. So question is which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements. So consider these two statements and see which one of them is correct. Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct and statement 2 is the correct explanation of statement 1. A is the answer, right? Now we move forward. Now I come to Lukmaan IAS having its unique course called PT 100 course where we cover 100 most important topics for prelims, and the coverage is meant to be done in a fast-paced manner. It leads to proper revision. At the same time, testing. The topics which we cover, after coverage of, for example, ancient India, you will have a test. This test is integrated with our test series called Takkar. So, this is a unique course which benefits the students, and over the years we have seen that almost 80% questions, 80, have been directly or indirectly related to whatever has been covered here in the form of lectures or tests. Almost 18 to 20 topics are there in ancient India where we will cover in our lectures, revision lectures in a way, all the historical aspects as well as art and culture of ancient times. And we suggest that you should read NCERT books of basic level as well as secondary level, class 6 to 12th, where you should study history books also. You should study art and the introduction to art, those books also, right? So we have given in our booklets the sources as primary, secondary and tertiary. If you want detailed information from us, you can come to us, discuss with us. The faculties are always available to mentor the candidates. So right from sources of ancient history to Stone Age, IBC, Vedic period or Mahajanpadas, Jainism, Buddhism, Mauryas, post-modern period, Guptas, post-Gupta period, art and culture related to those areas, everything will be covered over here and questions will be framed accordingly as per the UPSC pattern. Then when it comes to medieval India, here almost 15 topics are there where we will cover all the important historical developments as well as art and culture of medieval India. So we will cover the sources, tripartite struggle, Arab invasion, Bhakti Sufi movement, Delhi Sultanate, Vijayanagar Empire, other kingdoms of Deccan like Bahmani and successor states, Mughal Empire, regional kingdoms, and then art and culture related to them. All that thing will be covered. And again we suggest NCERT books as well as our class notes to be studied, and I think that is more than sufficient. It is advised that instead of studying a variety of sources once or twice, it is better to study limited sources, authentic sources again and again, and master a particular area for UPSC. So these are suggested accordingly. When it comes to modern India, for your convenience, we are dividing our lectures and tests in such a manner that each and every aspect is covered of modern India. In totality, there are 25 topics which we are going to cover in tests as well as lectures. 1707 to 1857 is first part and 1857 to 1947 is the second part. So right from the decline of the decline of the Mughal Empire and emergence of regional powers up to foundation of British rule, their ideology, their land revenue systems they evolved, their system of rule which they evolved, and then their economic policies, the socialist reform movements that emerged in 19th, 20th century, the rebellion against the Britishers before 1857 in the form of peasant, tribal uprisings, civil rebellions, or the revolt of 1857. These things will be covered. We suggest, again, read the relevant NCERT books along with the book India's Struggle for Independence by Bipin Chandra and our history notes. In the second part of modern India, right from 1858 to 1947, there are given 15 topics where we talk about the emergence of national consciousness, where middle class in socialist reform movements as well as the rise of nationalism plays an important role. And then different organizations of political nature are also formed. Before the formation of Indian National Congress, we will talk in brief about them also. Then Indian National Congress, its different phases, moderate, extremist, and then Gandhian phase. And the key developments that take place related to Congress and the national movement, as well as parallel developments in the form of what you can say communalism, etc., will also be studied, right? So the important aspects will be covered in our lectures, and finally we will end up with the independence of partition of India. So this is all from my side for today. I hope you understood what you should be expecting from us in our PT 100 course, or 100 topics which we are going to cover for prelims in our lectures, along with tests assigned to every section, which makes it a wonderful course, which we hope that all of you will benefit from us. Thank you so much.